All right, guys, sorry I couldn't be here today for the writing lesson, but that's okay. I can still do it this way. So first off, let's remember our expectations. When we're sitting here at the floor, you are going to make sure you are talking at appropriate times, which means like right now, you should not be talking. Participate in the discussion when it's the appropriate time to talk. Use slant, so you're going to sit up straight, you're going to lean forward, you are going to make sure you ask questions if you have questions. However, since it's a video, it's going to be hard for you to ask me a question. You're going to nod your head, so everybody nod your head quietly, quietly nodding your head. And then you're going to track the talker, which means if I move over here, your eyes shift over here. If I move over here, your eyes shift over here. So, what we're going to talk about today is, first off, we're going to review some of the strategies we use to brainstorm for a writing prompt. So when we need to come up with ideas for things to write about, we've already talked about two. We talked about thinking about a person who matters to you. I did that in some of my hours. I can't remember if I did that in this one, but that's a strategy where you think about people who are important to you. And then you choose something from that interaction with that person that was really important and meaningful to you. Another strategy we talked about is think about a place that matters. Remember, we drew those maps. And you think about a place that matters. Use pictures and quick notes to jot down about those small little moments from those different places. You drew pictures, you wrote words on the map, and then you chose one of those stories and you wrote the whole story about that one single moment. Okay? Remember I told all of you the spaghetti story. So I want you to right now think about a moment where you can brainstorm, a way you've learned in the past, because we don't just have to do new strategies. Think about things you used in elementary school to brainstorm for a topic. Now I want you to take 1 minute and talk with a partner for 1 minute about a strategy. 1 minute about some strategies that you use. Talk with people around you. Go. You guys have about 15 seconds left. All right, that's been 1 minute. I know that because I stood and watched the clock to make sure that we got 1 full minute of discussion. So all eyes up on me. Zoom. Let's try that again. Zoom. All eyes up here, listening to me. So, we talked about, I heard in some previous classes, they talked about a strategy where they talk about the first time or the last time you do something. Those are both meaningful moments, like the first time you ever rode your bike without training wheels, or the last time you were in an elementary school class, or the first time you walked into middle school, or the last time you got to see your best friend before they moved away. Okay, sometimes they're really happy moments, sometimes they're really sad moments, but those first and last moments tend to be really meaningful for stories. Now, so that's the first and last, listing out all those first and last moments, and then telling about choosing one and then writing a story about that. Now, the one we're going to talk about today is down here. Think of moments that really mattered because you realized or learned something new. And you're going to list out all of those moments, you'll choose one, and you'll write about it. So, for example, this summer, I had the opportunity to present a TED Talk. Quietly raise your hand if you've ever heard of a TED Talk. Okay, now TED Talks are these talks where people from around the country give this super important talk about things that are meaningful to them. And I was giving a talk up on stage in front of about 200 people, and I was talking about how important it is to give students voice, giving students, you guys, the opportunity to share about things that are important to them. And here's what happened. I was standing up on stage this summer in front of 200 people, and I had spent months memorizing my script that I was going to read, that I was going to share my thoughts. And I got about 1 minute into my talk, and I forgot what I was going to say. And not just like I forgot for about 5 seconds and then just awkwardly remembered and moved on. I completely blanked, panicked, had no idea what I was going to say next. I looked around. You can see in the video, it's going to be on YouTube soon. I promise I'll share it with you as soon as it's available. But I looked around the room. I looked backstage. I was like, what do I do? I was thinking I was done. I froze up. I didn't know what to do. And in that moment, I had two choices. One, I was really tempted to just walk off the stage and be like, I'm done. I quit. I'm done. This is embarrassing. I'm horrified. I don't know what to do. Or the second option was I knew I had my notes in my pocket, and it would be unprofessional to look at my notes, but I thought looking at my note cards was better than nothing. So that's what I did. I pulled out my note cards, and I read through my note cards, and I got through my speech, and it worked out okay. So what I learned from that moment was that even on the absolute worst, most disastrous presentation I could give, I still could survive and I could still give a great presentation. Okay? So I had this moment where I froze up, and then I could write an entire story about that moment and about how I learned that I could overcome a challenge and I could persevere even when things got tough. So right now, I want you to think about that. Writers, I want you to think about what are some things that you've learned? What are some moments in time when you learned an important lesson? Okay? Maybe it's you learned an important lesson about family. Maybe it's a time when you learned an important lesson about yourself, that you learned that you can overcome something, or you learned that when things get tough, you don't always make the best choice. Okay? I could think of another story where I learned that when I get in trouble, when I was little, when I would get in trouble, sometimes I wasn't completely honest and I would let other people take the fall. Thankfully, I've grown from that. But what are some moments, and they need to be a specific moment that you can remember, that you could learn from? Okay? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, probably about 5 minutes right now, and this is the last time I'm going to be on this video. You're going to have about 5 minutes to think about and make a list of all of the different moments that you can think of where you learned a lesson. And then in 5 minutes, after you've brainstormed, you're going to go around the room and you're going to write quietly. Remember, the expectation is that you are going to talk at appropriate times. During writing time, you should not be talking. I want an amazing report from the substitute that when you went to write, you wrote effectively and you were not disruptive. You weren't fighting over the comfy chairs. So take 5 minutes, and then when the substitute tells you to go to your writing corners, you will go to your writing. Good luck. Don't forget, you can always rely on other things that we've talked about. You could go to write about some of those first and last times. You could write about places that matter. Those don't go away. Okay? So brainstorm for 5 minutes about things you've learned from, and then you're going to go write. That's all I've got. Until next time, Book It Forward. Be awesome. Go brainstorm.